Okay, we are live. We've been live, it says, for 53 seconds. I didn't even know that. All right. Uh, what's up? Okay.
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's happy Thursday. It's kind of late,
You went
as
on
you
a little
know.
field trip recently, didn't you?
Yes, I went to, well, went to DC for the Black History Month luncheon. This is year two that Chicago Fist Red was invited.
Wow.
Uh, So yeah, it's a good time. I got some good content, so I'll put it all together and get that together. I think I want
Well,
to say
congratulations. That's a huge honor to be invited there for that, especially 2 times in a row.
yeah, I am honored that that we're thought of. It's just that it's time to have a meeting with my man now. You know, so for some okay, yeah, it is. Just making sure. For some reason. Okay, it is. All right. So yeah, just ready for that. Ready for a meeting with my man, so I can give him my business proposal. I have a business proposal that I think that will will bring everyone together, and I think that he will implement it. So shout out to my man, President Donald J. Trump, People's President in Danny C's voice. Um, All right, this is episode 5. Welcome to Checks and Balances, where history, law, and modern America intersect. Today, February 19th, 2026, um, we're going to go back to one of the most transformative moments in American history, the period following the Civil War, when the United States didn't just rebuild a nation, it rewrote the Constitution. After slavery ended, America faced a fundamental question: what does freedom actually mean under the law? And more importantly, what counts as a citizen? Since it's History Month or Black History Month, and because we just left DC, because Trump honored Black History Month, and unfortunately, none of the mainstream media except Fox News, you know, uh, broadcast it. So if anybody did watch it, I said that over 10,000 people showed up to the White House to celebrate Black History Month because over a million people watched um, the Black History Month, him speaking for Black History Month. And I know that that was over 10,000 freedmen, Black Americans, and then our patriots, our allies who understand what the 13th, 14th Amendment meant to U.S. history, meant for ourselves, and the people who really believe that America is a republic. So shout out to President Trump, who has not ever shied away from um, giving freedmen and Black Americans their flowers about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment and us help building this country. So I just want to play this little piece right here and then we can go into it.
God for the strength and courage and grit and devotion of Black Americans who have helped make America the most powerful country in the history of the world. God for the strength and courage and grit and devotion of Black Americans who have helped make America the most powerful country in the history of the world. God.
All right. So yes, and he spoke about a lot of things. He spoke about Jesse Jackson passing. He spoke about Jesse Jackson. He passed away February 17th. The day that we actually flew to DC the day before the Black History Month. So he spoke about their relationship and gave Jesse Jackson his flowers. They had a relationship, and I think plenty of people see the pictures and stuff that are circulating around, and that have circulated around for a very long time. And then he spoke about Tuskegee Airmen and the Buffalo Soldiers. He talked about Frederick Douglass to MLK. And he spoke about to Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj is Trinidadian, but she is a Christian, and she did come out and speak out against what was happening in Nigeria with the killings of the Christians. So a lot of people, tried to turn their back on her as well for her speaking up for her being a Christian and what they were doing in Nigeria and using her influence the way that you're supposed to use your influence. But shout out to her as well. So today I wanted to speak about, the three constitutional amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and through the lives of millions of newly freed Americans known as the Freedmen. But many people hear about these amendments without understanding what they legally change or why debates about them are still happening today. So, John, let's start at the constitutional level. Why were the Reconstruction Amendments so transformational?
The 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment in that time period, what's so important about that time period is that, we take for granted today that we're all people, no people are not property, but the Constitution was written in an era and by people who didn't have that view. And, the Black community's start in America was not by choice by and large. It was through slavery. And that went on for a very long time. And the Constitution's really only mention of that for a while was that, slaves would count for a certain apportionment for census purposes, but would not be people or be able to vote for due process or liberty purposes. And so, the end of the Civil War, when those amendments are passing through, that codifies and changes that and says, no, there is no more slavery here. And if you're a citizen of the United States, and this is what's really interesting, and we're actually seeing some of this tension play out today in real time. But when the country was formed, if you think back in colony times, New York, Virginia, Georgia, North Carolina, they viewed themselves as their own countries. They didn't view themselves as part of an America like we think of an America today, united. They thought of themselves as 13 sovereign nations or independent territories that would bind together loosely for military purposes, basically, and no other real reason. And so as the country grew and as we started to add more states, the debate about slavery grew and became inflamed. And it became time that there was no longer a way to say, oh, we'll put this to the side. We're going to have to figure out what way we're going to go, left or right. And then we had a whole civil war about it. And then these amendments were used to codify the changes that we wanted to see legislatively as a nation after the Civil War. And they said we're all people. And if you're a citizen of the United States, the big USA, then you're a citizen of all the states. And so Alabama can't say because you're Black, you don't have rights here and you're not a citizen here and you're not a person here. The 14th Amendment completely changed all of that. And it said there's a floor of rights given to everybody. We're done with slavery. Nobody can enforce that. And the idea is you have to give equal protection, too. Everybody has to have the same access under the law. And, of course, that's not how it played out in the Jim Crow South for a long time. And we had to have a whole modern civil rights movement that came in the 50s and 60s to take the next step. And now I think we find ourselves as a nation in another time when we're having to have another civil rights conversation about, what does it mean to be an American? What does it mean to be a citizen of the United States versus not a citizen of the United States? What are the rights that I'm entitled to? We've come to believe that political speech is free speech, but the Illinois legislature had a bill floating around to criminalize political misinformation at a class 3 felony level. I don't know if they pulled that bill or not. But what does it mean to be an American? Does it mean that based on the state I live in, my rights under the Constitution are different? And what the 14th Amendment says to that is no. Whatever state you live in, whether you're in Washington, whether you're in Alabama, whether you're in Chicago, Illinois, my rights are the same and equal to everybody else's, and the government can't unfairly infringe upon them.
For people who probably never heard the word freedmen or know a little bit of it, I want to just let you know that freedmen were formerly enslaved Americans who almost overnight transitioned from being legally considered property to becoming citizens of the United States. After the Civil War, they built schools, churches, businesses, and entire communities across the country. They voted, they held public office, they helped reshape American democracy during construction. But their freedom was fragile. Southern states quickly passed laws attempting to limit their rights, which forced federal government to step in and redefine citizenship permanently through the Constitution. The answers came through 3 constitutional amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, and through the lives of millions of newly freed Americans known as the Freedmen. But many people hear about these amendments without understanding what they legally changed or why debates about them still happen today. So just want to make sure we have that part. So Donald Trump's President Trump, since last year, the ending of the birthright citizenship. He's argued that the birthright citizenship should be reconsidered or limited, particularly regarding children born to the parents who are not lawful permanent residents. So, John, help us separate politics from constitutional law, and what does the Constitution actually say? If you know.
Well, of course.
Are you familiar with the ending of the birthright citizenship, right?
Yeah, very much so. And early on, the Supreme Court used that case to say that they were going to ban or radically reduce nationwide injunctions that could be issued by district courts. And so, we have however many appellate circuits, I think it's 13, and we have however many federal district courts across the United States. I won't venture a guess because I'm sure it'll be wrong, but it's a lot. It's hundreds. And when we talk about jurisdiction, we talk about what is the geographical territory that a court can lawfully order something to happen or not happen within a territory. And it had become very fashionable, particularly venue shopping has always been fashionable among lawyers, but in the context of immigration, particularly, venue shopping would be really important. Plaintiffs' attorneys would go find sympathetic plaintiffs in favorable jurisdictions and get a judge to issue a nationwide injunction against a policy. And so the Supreme Court used that case initially to say, we don't want to see this anymore, or we don't really want to see it, except in the most rare of circumstances, so that one judge in a district in California can't change the way federal law applies to everybody within the United States. And we could debate the wisdom of that or not. Eventually, the merits of that case are going to work its way up to the Supreme Court, and they're going to have to decide. When they sent it back down, the only thing they really said about the underlying substance of birthright citizenship was we're not, they basically said if they're going to change the way that's done, that order will not be retroactive. That they're not going to go back and try to undo what's already been presumed in the last 150 years. But in saying that, I think they tipped their hand that there's a majority of justices that will change the birthright citizenship precedent. And there's kind of Supreme Court precedent, there's sort of two lines of cases that deal with this. And the first is with Black Americans. The next is with Native Americans. And the courts kind of split in their interpretation of how the law applies to those two groups. And it sort of created a little bit of an ambiguity. And so via discretion and non-interference from Congress and from the executive, they've always just kind of presumed that the precedent as it's set has said that birthright citizenship is permissible and does apply to anybody born within the geographical territory of the United States. These things some of these case precedents are so old that, just trying to reapply them today in modern times and modern contexts doesn't always make sense and can be a little bit confusing because, some of the law is about consensus, and consensus is achieved with the people who are there at that moment. And the people who were there in the 1880s had a much different viewpoint of life than the people today in 2025, for better or for worse. But if you asked me to bet a mortgage payment on it, I believe that the Supreme Court is going to reverse that precedent and say that moving forward, the way we've done it is not how we're going to do it. That's just a prediction. I don't have any, nobody calls me with insider information or anything. It's just me reading the tea.
So you think they're going to end it? I think, I wanted them to end it, but I think that we would have to come out. The Freedmen community would have to come out. And because right now it's being overshadowed that President Trump is speaking about it and what the original intent was, but no one doesn't discuss it, because if they discuss it, then they would have to admit that the other side has never been for us, and they continue to show that in modern day times.
Yeah, and how many times do we talk about it on this podcast? We don't have a media that's interested in presenting a straight picture of what's going on. And you saw it out at your event, not your event, but everybody's event out at the White House a couple days ago. You said only Fox News would cover that. I can't imagine why, because I can't imagine why, because it undercuts the narrative that Trump is some psycho racist out to get everybody that he can that's not rich and white. So, and a room full of Black supporting people who are for Trump policies because their lives are better, because they're safer, because they have more money in their pocket, because they have rights that they can enforce through due process of law, because they live in a representative republic with a capitalist economic structure. Of course that message can't get out. So now we'll just ignore it and we'll make up our own story. And what's so dangerous about that is if we don't have credible sources of information to rely on, to go to and separate fact from fiction, we all just make it all up in our own heads. Where is that going to get us? And I think that's why you see a rise in citizen journalism today. I think that's why you see so many people who are doing like we're doing, podcasting, putting up their own news sites, doing their own blogs. It's because there's a major, you can watch the stuff and instinctively that it's canned, it's mass produced, and nobody really cares how accurate any of it is, as long as the bottom line looks right. So, but if they make it about, oh, Trump is this awful bad person, he's Republican, then it's very easy to take the next step, which is, oh, all Republicans are awful and terrible. And some Republicans are not great, but there are a lot of Democrats that are not great. There are some independents that are not great. The 100% of the socialists and communists are not great. So we have to kind of mature as a people and stop relying on these media outlets for our information and start doing our own research and finding our own resources and making sure that it matches up with fact. And the biggest thing I tell people is, don't watch the media coverage of the speech. Watch the speech. And I don't mean that just for Trump. I mean it for anybody, for anyone.
Right.
Don't just watch the 30-second soundbite. Watch the whole thing. Listen to it, intake what they're saying, and see if it makes sense to you or not.
No, you're right. But also, we're gonna have to mature. Random, I was in DC. I got back this morning, and where we were staying at, the bartender there was a person I knew, and she cut me off because I voted for Trump.
Really?
So we haven't seen each other since that. She unfollowed me on social media, all that. When after he got in, she inboxed me. And she asked me, she's like, "So did you vote for Trump?" I'm like, "Yeah, I voted for Trump." And she said, "Bet," and that was it. I explained why. I gave the reason why, and I did. And I shouldn't have to explain the reason why I did, but I explained it to her because I want her to understand. I didn't go off of impulse. I went off because of what we're dealing with in the city of Chicago, and I wasn't getting any help from the federal level, and then just looking at just the fraud, waste, and abuse. And if I did any of this, I would have been in jail. Anything I've done, I had to deal with it. I had to pay for it. Still paying for it now, because even though I've not been convicted, I have charges. I have a mug shot. I have all this stuff that's out here. If I try to get a job, that comes up. It's hard. I have to go through all these barriers. So, at the end of the day, I did what I did, but I haven't seen her since then. So to see her yesterday, it was like a surprise. And we spoke, we discussed a few things, and she still felt her way, but she also is half Jamaican. So I'm born and raised here, but both my parents are American. Both my parents are born and raised here. My grandparents are born and raised in America. My great grandparents were born and raised in America. So you can't sit here and tell me how I'm supposed to feel about my home. And one of the things that she said yesterday was like, well, I can always go back to Jamaica. You're right. You can go to Jamaica. I can't. And she had to say, true. So I think that's the issue. Freedmen, Black Americans, people born and raised here, it's time for us to stand up and tell President Trump what we want, because he's listening. You're just letting the media and you're just letting other people try to paint him as somebody that he's not. He sat down with Ice Cube. Y'all got mad. I remember when Steve Harvey shouted him out. Y'all got mad. Anybody that gives Donald Trump his props that's Black, you're going to get chastised.
Yeah, and that's, everybody's different, and there's so much social pressure around politics today, and that's the result of hyper-partisanship. everything is viewed through a Republican versus Democrat lens. And that's probably not good. We need to tone that down and just start
Right.
looking at things again from a common sense lens. There's a passage in the Bible, I think it's in Matthew, when Jesus is talking about pouring new wine into new wineskins and not pouring new wine into old wineskins. And Republican, Democrat, and independent, those are the old wineskins. And we need to put those to the side, and we need to say, what policy benefits me today? Not what does CNN tell me benefits me, not what does MSNBC tell me, not what does Fox tell me. What, after my own research and judgment, is for my benefit. And I really think that the moment in time is here for Black Americans and conservative voters to create the new dominant voting alliance that carries us forward into a far more prosperous, far more free, far more equal society, and not equal outcomes, but equal access to opportunity for everybody, not dependent on immutable characteristics, not dependent on where you're born or the zip code lottery, but dependent on the content of your character, dependent on what you contribute to society, your unique gifts and talents. And we can do that. And we've got to stop letting the media drive wedges between us. When you talk about how you felt the need to explain how you voted to your friend, in politics, they say when you're explaining, you're losing. I don't have to explain how I vote to anybody.
I think I explained it to. I think I explained it to her.
I'm not saying anything about your personal. I'm not saying anything about your personal interaction. You two had a personal conversation that you felt needed to be had based on your experience. I'm speaking in the abstract more generally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel I owe anybody an explanation on what I do in the voting booth. I feel somebody owes me an explanation about why I should say a thing to them about how I vote or why I vote that way. And if you really want to, part of the reason we don't see, where are the counter protests? Well, because 80% of the people who don't agree with this are working when the protests go on. They have other things to do than go break windows, than go scream and yell, than go spit at police officers. Some people have chosen to go develop a life for themselves. And that's what's you're not dealing with traditional Republicans versus Democrats. You're dealing with new age Republicans, and you're dealing with socialists and Marxists in Democrat clothing. And voters have to educate themselves, and may it make some people feel uncomfortable to vote Republican. Yes. I promise you, carrying us 10 more miles to the left with the socialists and the communists is going to make your life so much more uncomfortable than voting Republican and never having to tell anybody about it. You don't have to put a billboard up. You don't have to go on Facebook and say, I admire your advocacy and what you do and how, proud you are about what you're doing. And I think you should be. And that's great. And we need more people like you. You're a hero.
But it's nobody's business at the end of the day.
Right. For the people who don't want to assume that role, for the people who don't want to get on and do checks and balances podcast, for people who don't want to go out and protest, the beauty of this country is it's up to me. It's between me and the voting booth, and if we don't have secure elections, how are we ever going to deliver the promise of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment to the generation of Americans living today? How on earth are we going to do that if 1/3 of the kids that come out of public schools in this country can't read those amendments? What good is it? What is the point? And what you see here in Illinois, they want to go all vote by mail. They try to do it in the middle of the night, and advocacy gets that bill pulled today. These people are maniacs. They're craven, power-hungry psychopaths. They will do anything to hold on to power. including create
Yep.
policies that are so bad for you and your family that you'd rather go to Michigan or Indiana or Wisconsin or Iowa, and you'll be replaced from a newcomer down south. And then those federal subsidy dollars for that newcomer will go right into JB's house, and he'll cut up a third of it for the Hyatt, and a third of it for his buddies in the Democrat Party, and a third of it for projects that'll never be spent on anything they're supposed to be.
That's why we gotta get these people out. We gotta
You
get
know,
these
and
people out, but we also have to.
And voting is it. I mean, we talk about what are the tools. We have election cycles. We have election cycles, and we can do it. But the other thing is, it takes money. It takes money to get the message out. It takes money to fuel organization. And like, we can all complain about CTU and everything, but the bottom line is they're very politically savvy. They're very politically organized, and their rules are set up to favor the way they spend their money.
Yeah.
You know, so we all have to,
jail.
We all have to put 20 or 50 or $100 into the pot, however uncomfortable that is. And I'm not telling people how to do it or where. You donate where it makes sense to you, but the one thing I hear, and I do hear this a lot, I hear major criticism of the Illinois GOP, and I hear major criticism of the Cook County GOP, and I hear major criticism of the Chicago GOP. I'm not saying don't criticize, because we all have to have thick skin and be able to hear tough, messages if we want to grow. But who puts in money for these groups to be effective? Who has donated money to these groups to be effective? It's not enough to grouse on the sideline about how this state sucks. And if you don't have money, then pick up a sign. Go get signatures. Go knock on doors when it comes to election time. That's fine. Time is as good as money. I can point you to 80 different organizations if you want. It doesn't have to be one I like. It doesn't have to be one Zoe likes. But it's not enough to lay on the couch and complain. It's not enough. I think we all are at the stage of laying on the couch and F this place, and I'm tired of this so-and-so and this such and such. But without action, it's for naught. And what they're so good at is beating this perception into your head that, this is just the way it is, and you have to take it, and there's nothing you can do. No. In 2026, if we go out and vote in record numbers and flip a bunch of Democrat seats into Republican seats, the place is going to change overnight. The place is going to change overnight. But like Carol says, money talks. Money buys speech. Citizens United, money buys speech. Money is has a heck of a lot of talking power. I'm one set of lips, and I get tired in 30 minutes. Money buys a lot. Money can talk.
Especially if you have the right messaging.
Yes. And that gets into, we got to forget Republican and Democrat. We got to look at what are the problems facing us? Where do we want to go? We know that there needs to be some tax revenue. It's impossible for there to be no tax revenue. That's unrealistic, but it has to be defined. It has to be controlled. It has to be tied to inflation. And there has to be provable, demonstrable return on the investment for the tax dollars that have been heretofore frittered away in this county for decades. It's added up. The interest and the bad time on the debt and on the failed education system and on the way that we do business, the note has come due. And it's time to change.
No, you're right. And I think it's going to change. I think people are tired. I think the issue is people are starting to see the truth, because they're both, they both do their thing, the Republicans and the Democrats. But the Democrats have not they have not apologized for what they put America through these last 10 years. Like from the COVID to this illegal immigration scam to the stealing of the tax dollars to, I mean, right now they're running for office. Not one person has talked about a policy that they're going to implement. They're not going to talk about how the fact that that they're stealing black people's property. I don't. People can sit here and act like it's not happening. It is, and the fact that the judges are corrupt and are in the Democratic Party. Not all of them. There's some good judges out here that do go by the constitutional oath. However, there are some bad judges, just like there's some bad politicians, and they have not apologized. They have not, and they never apologize. It's always an excuse after excuse after excuse because they know that we're going to either not vote or vote blue because that's what we're taught. So, my man went. But yeah, so that's basically how this is.
I'm sorry, I had somebody run in and had a question real quick about a case. No, I think
cool.
you're 100. I think you're 100% right. But we all have to do our part, and we have to make this as hard as it is. We have to commit to this like we commit to work. We have to commit to this like we commit to family. We have to vote red. Vote red.
Communism is not going to work.
Vote red instead. Vote red instead, Judy. And just because you vote one way in one cycle, it doesn't mean you have to do that forever. Many Americans switch and choose how they vote, but in my opinion, the best chance this country has for preserving the fundamental ideals that set it apart and make it great and make it the kind of place where you can access opportunity, you can make money, you can start a business, you can learn, you can be what you want. You can be what you want here. The only way to preserve that is if we create a conservative black voting alliance. And if we put politicians in place who are going to deliver for conservatives and deliver for the black community specifically. And getting back to the start of the importance of the amendments, we talk about this all the time, or at least I do with you sometimes. The failure to deliver on the promise of Reconstruction for the black community has created centuries-long problems in this country. And we have a president who's willing to sit down and listen and deliver. We have as close to a Republican Congress as we've had in a long time. And if we go even further red in 26 and give a real majority to work with, this is a moment in time where we could set right what was put on the wrong track 150 or 170 years ago and get it right and deliver the kind of America we want for everybody, even for the people we don't agree with politically, but who deserve to live in a society that is safe, that has low taxes, that has little government interference. I'm sorry, but we cannot be living in a state where the Secretary of State is giving driver's licenses to quantities of people 1 in 4 that are unvetted. It's dangerous and insane. Thank you, Latanya. This is just common sense at this point. Latanya, you're right. It is just common sense at this point. And George, somebody said to me today, I saw that story from Transportation Secretary Duffy and Secretary of State and the driver's licenses. George Ryan went to prison for a long time because of one accident that had a fatality to somebody who got a driver's license that they shouldn't. There's no doubt in my mind that a fatality is going to occur on the road with somebody who has one of these licenses. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. That's the math. Do the math of it. Like car accident statistics. It's going to happen. And maybe it'll be a fender bender. Maybe it'll kill a family of 4. Maybe it'll leave the driver paralyzed and we'll have to pay for medical care for 25 years. because they
Right.
can't move, can't get them out of the hospital. You know,
Right.
these are real serious discussions that the communists and socialists who just want to scream racism at you because they don't want to have a real discussion, not having these discussions because of that. And we're not having these discussions because we have people in the media who are more interested in keeping us at each other's throats than they are in seeing real solutions implemented here that better your life or that better my life or that better the life of the working class or citizens who have been here for generations. It's not a crime to have been an American here for generations. There's not something wrong with that. We don't owe any apologies for that.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. Well, I think
we got a pressure cooker coming up in the primaries. We're coming close.
Yeah, a pressure cooker. But I
Please,
also think
I'm not doing this is not an endorsement thing, and Zoe's not doing an endorsement right now. What I will encourage you to do, and what I really admire Chicago Flips Red for, they've been great at reaching out and talking to every single candidate and letting you make your choice. And I encourage everybody, come vote in the primary, make your voice heard. I'm not going to, I have my choice and I already know who I will vote for. But I want to let the process play out. I want to give everybody the chance to speak their mind and see how the votes come in, you know, but do your research, get involved. Don't I don't like this candidate. Well, if you didn't get up and vote, get out of my face about how you don't like it. And at the end of the day, whoever wins, if it's Mickey Mouse, if Mickey Mouse walks out of that primary with the write-in victory that nobody expects, we need to get arm in arm behind that person and not talk about what a lousy mouse he is. We need to talk about what a lousy, rotten governor we've had for 8 years and how we can do this country a service. Yes, Pat Lambert with $10. Thank you. That's the energy we need. Pat Lambert, 197. You're the listener of the podcast. Yes.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it, Pat.
That's awesome.
Actually, that's our first super chat that we've ever got. We're episode 5, so thank you.
Thank you.
Pat.
We are so appreciative. We're $10 closer to JB being gone. At the end of the day, you get 10 people and 5 vote for Darren and 4 vote for Ted and 1 votes for Bendrick. And at the end of the day, when that's all done, however it shakes out, Pritzker is the political opponent.
Right.
We are sending JB back to the Hyatt. I don't care how.
I don't think they want him, but
they're sending him
about there.
They probably don't. You know what? Because why would they want him there? He'd let people in. He had no right to be in the hotel. He'd charge the current guests that had paid 5 times the rate that they were told they were going to pay to cover the difference. Right? You know?
Right.
It's madness. It's madness. People can't run their homes this way. People can't run businesses this way, and it's fiscal insanity.
It is
it's fiscal insanity.
And I want out. I want out of this.
Along the lines, the people that run this state decided that they were going to use the policies to push productive working people out of here, and I'm tired of that. I am not going to be an Illinois refugee. Get out of my face.
Exactly. Because you're a Chicago boy, right?
Born and raised. I'm a Beverly
Born and raised. Yeah, Chicago. I'm trying to tell you. I told them up there, and I got to go get my clip when I first started going down there. I said, this is the wrong city to play with. I said, it's the wrong city to play with. And I know they see it. They see the pressure. They know the pressure. They can ignore it, but they know the pressure.
I'm 41. Other than law school and college, I've spent my entire life here. I grew up on the south side, but I live on the north side now with my family. And I love this city. It's the greatest city in the world. I'm not going to be pushed out of here. And I don't care how unlikely it is. Let me. What's this? I've been asking.
Yeah, I'm gonna answer it because I believe that this is a rumor. This question was asked because I kept hearing it. You guys can go on. I interviewed Aaron Del Mar and Mr. Bailey is on there as well. He surprised us, so he's on there as well. He stayed on there. We answered all the questions. No, there the story is there was another guy that was running. He was black. That was running for governor as well at the time that Bailey was running, and they were putting so much money against the other guy because he had a chance to
Richard Irvin.
win.
Richard
Irvin to win. So they put so much to keep him off the ballot and stuff like that. It started making a name recognition for Bailey. So that's it. You know that, but the Pritzker donating to Bailey's campaign. No, there's no knowledge of that. You cannot find it or any of those things. They say that Pritzker picked the guy he knew that he felt that he could beat in the primaries. And I also want to say this. This is not an endorsement on Bailey and Del Mar.
Thanks for the question, Lynn.
Yeah, it's not on Bailey and Del Mar. I want to say that in 2022, when this election was happening, the COVID scam was still happening in Illinois. You know, you guys were just coming from being being slaves, have to stay in the house, can't do nothing. I can wear a mask, all that. But Pritzker can go to Florida and do what he wanted to do, but nobody else could. But saying that to say is, if you look, a lot of people say that he got wiped out. He did not get wiped out. He really did it. He didn't get wiped out. I think that if this would have not, if COVID never happened, I think it was a possibility that he could have won. And I think that they weren't in the black community as much as they should have been in the black community. But there was a person that was supposed to help him with the black community. But you know how people do. People scam. So I don't think but as far as Bailey donating Pritzker donating to Bailey's campaign, no. So that's a lie, and I wish people would stop saying that.
To me, even if he did, it just demonstrates to me that that Pritzker is dumb enough to pick his own poison. And you know, when we talk about what's going to come up in this election cycle, the important thing is that we link arms and change the color of Illinois from blue to red.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, oh, the wrong person donated so much to the Republican candidate. It's not, oh, the Republican candidate said this one regrettable thing one time. You know, those are the games that the media outlets that are particularly in Chicago, but across the state,
right,
want to feed into and want to play into and want to give you that idea that, oh, what you do doesn't matter. What you do doesn't matter. You throw your vote away, sit on the couch. Oh, look, they've picked another loser. Ha, 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 ha. That's not true. You know, what's true is you have media outlets in this state and in the county and in the city, in the county of Cook and the city of Chicago that work for the Democrat Party. They don't cover them. They work for them. They actively go to work for their hand-picked person. And right now, you see that a lot of media is enthralled with this idea of wonderful socialism and how that's all going to work here, despite the fact that it's never worked right anywhere. Oh, well, it's worked in Europe. Well, we've subsidized Europe's military for the last 50 to 60 to 70 years. And if they ever had to come up with a way to defend, I mean, they're having these conversations now in Europe. They don't know how to defend themselves if we're not around with the big stick. And how are we going to pay for it, and our free medicine, and our free education, and our retirement plans at age 42? It's not smart budgeting. And no real business that has to go out there and make the nut every month could survive it. But because because it's a socialist government, that we'll just come take your home. We'll just tax your home so much that you have to sell it because you can't afford
Chicago.
Oh, well, that stock certificate that you have today, actually, 5 years from now, it could be worth $1 million, not 100,000. So you're going to pay the tax on what it could be worth today. And if you can't pay it, you're going to sell the asset entirely so that you can cover the tax. This stuff is insane. And if it means I have to vote Republican to beat it, so be it. That's not a hard choice. I don't have to tell my friends. I don't have to tell my family. I can make the same comments and have the conversations. Be a secret red voter this time, because that is the way to change it. If you're pissed about what you see in the news, if you're pissed about what you see out of city council, if you're pissed about what you see out of Springfield, if you're pissed about what you see out of the governor's mansion, go vote red in November. That's the answer. That's it. We're done.
That's done.
Vote red in November.
Vote red in November.
We need today. Thank you so much for the donation, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. So when we say know your amendments, we're really saying understand the legal foundation of your rights. I advise everyone, if they don't have the U.S. Constitution anywhere in their home or on them, you should need to go get that and a chessboard. Keep trying and a dining room table. If you start with those three, you're on your way. And register to vote. Read down the ballot. Those are my suggestions.
Pocket constitutions are very cool. I even pull mine out in court sometimes to cite to it. They fit well in a purse. They fit well in a bag. They fit, maybe not a wallet, but a glove compartment.
Right.
It's good reading, and it's stuff you should know because it's our history, and they're your rights. Nobody can take them from you unless you give them away.
Exactly. All right, y'all. So
welcome back to DC.
Yes, I'm back. I love DC. DC is my second home. I want a place there, and I want a office there. I need to be in. Dick Gregory said that's the most powerful place you want to live or be in because they have the power to make the laws. So
DC is cool. I like DC. I don't know if I'd want to live there, but I like it. I definitely like to visit.
Yeah. I would live in DC, but I would still live like how I do. Like I like to go there. Our 250 year is coming up, and last year, we had a I wanted to do my event, and thank you, Hyder Sight Law. You helped me put it together. But my 4th of July weekend, I actually went and supported President Trump when the Supreme Court heard the ending of the Birthright Citizenship Act, and then we had our Freedmen homecoming. So this will be our second year, and it's 250 America. So yeah, I really feel like you need to pull up this time. I mean, maybe we can do our podcast live there.
Well, I was thinking about maybe like a unity event for all Republicans. And I think we should be thinking about that and maybe advertise. Maybe people listening have some ideas
both of it.
Too.
We had it. It was both.
I definitely would head out there this 4th of July. I think that would be fun. It's the 250th birthday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important one to be at, of all of them. Who knows if I'll make 300? So I definitely have to be at 250. And then
I think we'll make 300.
This is the last thought I'm going to leave you with. Prince Andrew got arrested. Did you see that?
Yeah.
In the UK?
In the UK.
If he needed a criminal defense lawyer of some kind, what website would he go to?
Hydrosite law.
Subscriptionlawyer.com.
Yeah, but hydrosite law. I like hydrosite law. I want people to understand hydrosite law. I want this name to be everywhere. Hydrosite law.
Well,
but
you and me share that goal.
Subscription lawyer though. But yes. So yes, if you need to get and also if you are here illegally, because I'm so tired of people saying that Chicago was red. We are anti illegals and all that. Yes, we are anti-illegals if you came here the wrong way. If you are seeking asylum, if you come in here for a better life and you know that you are unlawful and you are here illegally, you and your family, you need to get an immigration attorney. So you can go to Subscription Lawyer, and do you guys speak Spanish?
Of course, everybody on our staff, native Spanish speakers, bilingual.
So they're bilingual. So you can go get you a lawyer, because if you don't get you an attorney and ICE show up, you gone. Or you could take that $1,000 and that flight. I heard it's up to $2,000 now. $2,000 and that flight back to your country. Or if you want to get, if you want to stay here, Subscription Lawyer. So can't say I didn't warn you or I didn't give you an attorney.
Everybody should know their rights. Everybody should know their rights. We live in a great place that, at least in theory, it's believed that we're all born with them and they can't be taken away, least of all by a government. So if you have any kind of legal question, criminal, civil, immigration, please look us up, subscriptionlawyer.com. If I don't have the answer, I'll point you to somebody who does.
Right. So
bye, everybody.
Criminal, civil. Peace. Please like and subscribe.
Please.